Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 41. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson, and I'm here with Julian Pombo.
Hello.
Yo, how's it going?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, not bad. We had a good chat about video games before starting. Been playing the new Assassin's Creed, which came out as of the day of recording. Like, it came out today. It's 10th of November, and it's great. But we won't talk about that because this is a music podcast. We do this every time. We're like, oh, there's this movie, and then anyway.
I'm sure people love that.
It's always my fault.
Nah, I'm equally to blame. I mean, it's kind of related to the podcast in that I chose the name based on a game reference, a sort of gaming reference.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're allowed, it's fine. So yeah, we'll just fire right into it then. So this, I was thinking last night, something we don't talk about often is solo artists. Because we're Level Up Your Band, we're like, talking about band stuff. But there's a lot of solo artists out there that there's a totally different perspective. So there's this sort of unsaid thing. Well, we've certainly not said it. When you're going in to record or do anything as a solo artist, you might require musicians every now and again.
Yeah.
Because, well, people who just record acoustic and vocals, I mean, that's fine, but occasionally you'll maybe want to get some session musicians to record your music and not necessarily have a band. Some people don't, they just go out as a solo person with band. I mean, you're part of that. You're in a band that is solo artist and band.
I was in a band that was like that. That was with Austin
and Katie.
His thing is just Austin Miller
and Katie Cross.
And Katie Cross. But when she gigs with a band, it's Katie Cross and name of band
and the band.
So I'm Amberjacks or the Amberjacks. That's not it's not like we have some kind of weird pseudonyms. Pseudonym, sorry. We're just cutting about like, yes, and on drums we have Warthog, Insert bizarre name here. No, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's quite common. It's
very common. So I thought we'd do an episode on it.
And for sure.
Specifically on one element of it. So if you are a solo artist and are considering recording your music, this episode should go through all the things that you need to know before going into the recording studio. And just this is coming from like experience and just having friends who are solo artists or working with solo artists and just the things that you go through and trying to get musicians in. And if this is all assuming that you don't, that you typically go out gigging alone, but you want to record your music with a band. So here's a couple of things that if I were a solo artist, would have prepared before going to the studio. So number one, make demos. So there's a couple of things here. If you have a recording setup, that's a really good thing, and I would recommend doing that. Recording demos on an iPhone is all well and good. Just having your voice memo app is fine, but you don't have as much control and freedom on that kind of app.
Well, I'd argue so. Okay. I mean, with making demos on your phone, it is actually possible to make some pretty decent demos on your phone, because you can get if you've got an iPhone anyway, you can just get GarageBand on your phone.
Well, that's a DAW.
You can yeah, okay, right, fair.
So
fair,
what I'm saying is,
so
like,
you're just meaning like
voice
just
memo.
going onto like voice memos and then just recording the thing like
That's fine.
Okay, yeah,
like using voice memo as a songwriter is a very good idea for yourself.
It's an invaluable tool.
It's amazing.
Like I use it if I get like an idea, like just if I'm doing dishes or something.
Yep.
I just grab my phone and just record it. You know, just like hum whatever it is, and that is actually I'm trying to think. Charlie Puth, he's a singer, but you know that the big hit he wrote like years ago, that one. He came up with that song. It just came to him, and he sang it all into his phone.
Right.
The whole thing, riffs, bass lines, everything, just the whole thing.
I would say
so it is
the voice memo app
tool.
or whatever phone you use, just whatever records audio, even if it's just a camera, that's great for capturing the idea so that you don't forget it. And then you come back to it, you can see, I'll maybe go off that idea, song memo number 54 was a cool idea. I'll maybe join that up with number 16, and then that's the chorus, and then you join it all together. Then you've got your demo. So I wouldn't call that a demo. I would just call that a kind of just a random rough idea, a sketch.
A sketch, yeah.
So once you've done that, obviously you've written your song using that process, and the first thing you should do is record a demo. So I recommend getting a DAW, and as Julian said, you could use GarageBand on your phone if that's what you want to do. But I would suggest getting it on your laptop or your computer. Or whatever.
Yeah. That's like if you don't have a laptop that is, I don't know, powerful enough or whatever, or you can't afford it or whatever, you can just, there you go, GarageBand for free on your iPhone.
Yeah.
It's like it's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing, yeah. What I would suggest doing is recording your song in its finished structure on a DAW. And what I mean by that is intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, solo, verse, chorus, ending. In the structure that it's going to be when it's finished and out on the radio. Like, record it in that structure. And if you're a guitarist, like acoustic guitar and vocal, then record your acoustic guitar and vocal on the DAW on separate channels. If you've only got one mic, do them separately. So do your acoustic first and then do the vocals on top or something like that. And record it to a click track. So that means deciding on a tempo. So you record in all the structure that you want. And then once you've got everything all structured out, all in time, and it's your acoustic and your vocals, you can then add stuff if you want. So if you're going to the studio and you go, right, I'm a solo artist, I usually do this stuff just acoustically, but I want a full band sound for when I go into the studio, but I don't have a band. But what I can do is arrange it for a band and then hire session musicians to come in and play on the record in the studio, which is totally legitimate way of doing things. And you can release a record like that. And if you get booked for gigs on the back of that, you can even call up those same session musicians and ask them to come and play with you, or you can make a sort of session band to back you. I mean, it's if the parts are all written out, you can get session musicians to do that. So if you want drums, you can just add them in. You can, on GarageBand or whatever, you can get a pre-made beat with MIDI drums and just block out a drum beat. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It just has to be kind of the beat that you want and the bits that you want it through the whole song. Same with piano.
That's just reminded me of something. There's a song, I can't remember who it is. I think it's Umbrella.
Yeah.
The Rihanna song. The drum beat in that is just a GarageBand loop.
Yeah.
They just liked it, and they just wrote it off of that loop. So
it's funny. Yeah,
yeah,
it can stay.
I know. I agree, Jess. really hard in the background.
Meow.
Yelling at me.
I mean, it can stay like that forever. I mean, you could end up liking that drum beat, and then keeping with it. But the point of this exercise is to block out the instruments or the kind of production style that you want for your final product.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be there. It's like a placeholder. It's like if you want piano, you can literally just block chords. You don't even need to be able to play piano. You can drag and drop chords these days on DAWs. So G for 4 bars, D for the next 4 bars, whatever it happens to be. And you can just sort of block it out. The reason for doing this is there's multiple reasons. We'll get into that in the next couple of points. But it's all about structure and planning. And there's a last point on the demo front is writing out chord charts or written music or lyrics or whatever for reference, for future reference for the musicians, the studio, wherever you're going to go with it. So that anyone can just look at the chart and go, all right, I know, I can see what's happening here. So they've got the demo and the chart. If you give them nothing, it's just going to be, well, what's going on? I don't know what you want to do. So that's number one of what to do before going to the studio. I don't think there's anything else. But that...
Yeah, I mean, if you're really, if at this point you're like, man, I don't have time to learn how to use a DAW or whatever, I'm a total technophobe. If you are just going to send your musicians, I would say that if you're working as a studio musician, you should be competent enough to be able to like listen to a tune and be able to, if you have to, you shouldn't have to, but if you have to like chart it out yourself, at least send them a recording.
Yes, yeah.
If that, even if the memo thing is the best thing you can do, that's fine. But I would really get on that and try to learn how to use a DAW, so then you can just make it easier for yourself and make it easier for everybody else. And you also will learn lots of different things and some lingo and whatever technical points that you can talk to your engineer about when you're recording. So
I mean the whole point in doing this demo thing is it's kind of the same as a screenplay, I would say. So in movies, they make they sort of block out how this film is going to be shot and camera angles, and it's all done in like rough pen and stuff. It's just,
it doesn't even have to look like, sometimes I've seen like Disney, like what you call it, ones that Disney have done, and like even they look like amazing, like because they've got proper artists working on it, but it can just be stick men. And you still get the right idea.
The whole point is just to have a structure of what is going to happen, a plan. So number 2 of prep, and it kind of follows on from the demo thing, is sending the demos to the musicians. So you obviously, this is assuming you've picked your musicians you want to use, like drummers and bassists and all that. If you are using musicians in your recordings, they will need a guide on what kind of thing you want them to play. So assume you will not rehearse together, because that almost never happens. It's usually just they turn up for the session and then do the thing. So you need to make sure that they know exactly what they need to do before coming to record. So you send them the demo, you send them the chart, you send them the lyrics, you send them the lead sheet, cheat sheet, whatever you want to call it, so that they know what kind of stuff is coming their way. I can't stress enough how important that is, because if you're a guitarist, you don't know what, say you've got multiple amps or multiple guitars, you don't know what vibe it's going to be. Are you going to bring your hollow body Gretsch, or are you going to bring your telly? You're like, that makes a difference,
the last thing you want to do is just bring absolutely everything, and then you only end up using one, the one thing that you were like, I mean, I always use that, so
I mean, if
You know,
you're
worst comes to worst, you turn up and you're like, you know what? I think I'll take my active 6-string fan-fretted monstrosity into the studio, and then it turns out, oh wait, it's all country music. This isn't gonna work.
Yep.
You know.
No.
I should have brought my P bass. Damn it.
Yep. Or bringing an upright to a metal or something ridiculous.
I don't know. Yeah. But like, ideally, you just want to bring what you need. You know.
Yeah.
Just rather than
and the way you find that out is communication with the artist. Like, what are you trying to go for here before we come in?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to explain that the part that you have written out is just a rough placeholder for them to follow as a guide, unless you have a very specific musical part or riff in mind.
Yeah, because I've been in both situations where I've worked with some musicians. This is mostly for like with Austin, for example. He's a guitarist, so he has some very specific riffs in mind.
Yeah.
You know, so we just he wrote them down and showed them to me. You know, so for those kind of musicians, like write down, if you're like, I want you to play this riff, write it down, tab it out if you want to, you know, if there's like a very specific way to play it, kind of a thing. But for the most part, just chords and a general vibe.
Yeah,
it's probably enough.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a guide, and it allows them to know where their boundaries are. So it allows them to add their own flair whilst keeping inside the boundaries that you've set for them. Like you can write a line, I want you to play this line, and you play that line. But if you're like, oh, these are the chords and this is the kind of feel, that gives them scope to add their own flair to it.
Mind you, sometimes I have been in the case as well where they're like, can you play this riff? And I suppose this is like for anybody who works in a studio, you don't have to be like, oh yes, of course I will do it, you know. If it's silly, or if you feel it doesn't work, contest it and say, actually I'd rather not, because I mean, I'll try this, but can I also try I think it would sound better if I played it this way. And a lot of the times, you know, if as a bass player, for example, they'll go, well, he's the bass player, he knows how to play bass lines.
Yeah,
we should maybe listen to him.
Yeah,
you know,
perhaps.
Perhaps. Sometimes they're like, no, it needs to be that way. And if it needs to be that way, then it's like, okay, well, it's that way.
Yeah.
But
try not to be too precious. I mean, it is your song and all, but sometimes people know better than you, and that's okay. You know. Yeah.
And if you feel like you do know better, don't be a
roaster.
Nasty about it. Yeah, don't be a roaster about it. Yeah, don't be nasty about it. Just say, you know, just frame it in a nice way, like in a sensible way. Like, just I'd rather play it. Could I try this? You know, rather than what you've written is stupid and wrong. Let me show you how it should be played.
Yes, that should go down well.
I mean, you do that if you never want to work with that person again. You're like, I don't like this person. You know what? Like, I'm just gonna.
This is a solo project, so you're the solo artist is kind of the boss. There's less. I think there's less investment. You don't get as many fights, because these guys are hired guns. They come in, they get paid a fee, and then they go home. They do what they're told, and they go home. They're sure they're going to add their musical flair and style, and then that's it. And that's fine. But the sort of band bickering that you get doesn't happen on the same scale with solo artist stuff. When it's all equal, like 5 members, and they're all like equal say, equal blah blah blah. That's when things can go. Why are you playing that? Why are you playing that? You know, all this starts to happen. It's clear, like the right from the outset, the solo artist is the creator, and it's kind of from the outset, you know, this is my thing, and I'm getting you in to do this. So I guess that helps. Keep in mind that you are the hired gun if you're a musician and you're being hired to do this. Because this is advice for both sides. It's for advice for people doing the project and people who are hired to come in to help with the project. So the next point is send the demo to the studio beforehand. So these demos, as I said, will act as a template for your song, like a blueprint or a screenplay. The reason for this, if you have recorded your demo on a DAW and you've clicked it out, it's all in a click track, then you can send that, either the project or just send the tempo map to the studio. He'll, you know, open up his DAW and then import the tempo map and your demo, and it'll all line up with the new.
It'll save so much time.
Oh, it saves. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in the next part. But it means that when we do the actual final version, we're laying it on top of the demo. The demo's there as the reference. It's at the top of the project file, right up there, and we're constantly referencing back to it, and we're building upon that. And the click and everything, it's so that we maintain the feel and the vibe and the feeling of that original demo. So we're staying true to the idea behind the whole track. We don't end up going down some path that's totally not what you wanted in the first place. If everyone knows what the demo sounds like, then we know what to expect when we're in the studio recording. The recording process will go so much smoother, and you'll end up being more pleased with the result at the end. 100% guaranteed. I've had both types of people, solo artists. I've had people who have never done a demo and they just come in. They've written their song, they know the song, and they come in, and I'll say, so what kind of production is it you're going for? And they'll go, I don't know. I'll just record down the acoustic and the vocals, and then let's just play around. Maybe some piano, maybe some this, and we'll just keep adding stuff until. Yeah, we'll kind of, I don't know, we'll just leave it up to you. Okay, and then you go down the process and then you end up with something and they're like, I don't know, it's kind of not really,
this is where,
blah, blah, blah.
I think, like you need to really think about the production style you're going to go for.
Yep.
I would even go, and maybe even have a listen to some bands' songs, you know, and be like, I'm going for... this sound, you know, and I'm sorry I bumped my microphone, but you know, like whatever, you know, I want it to sound like Soundgarden or Pearl Jam or like whatever. It obviously you're not gonna sound, you don't want to sound exactly like them, but it's a good start. You know, it's almost like collecting like a mood board,
a color palette.
Or like a color palette, of like production styles for either, I don't know, the whole EP or like the different songs or whatever. And it's just a good idea, and you might get further ideas from that. You know, like, oh, I liked what they did in this song, but I thought maybe it would sound kind of cool if we added this and whatever. You know, do you know what I mean?
It's called pre-production. This is what this is. It's deciding on what kind of production you're going to do on the song before you come into the studio and then just randomly throw some stuff together. It's just a waste of time and money. If you can figure out how to do all this stuff before you actually go and hit the record button for real, that's really good. It's if you can. Because any song can be anything. You can have a song and it can be a jazz record, it can be a metal record, it can be blues, it can be country. Like, music is very interchangeable genre-wise. You can basically turn anything into anything. If you don't believe me, then you can see like the top 10 hits, pop hits made into metal covers, and they work fine.
Yeah.
It just music is very. It can be anything you want.
There's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he's great. He does like little like acoustic jazz covers of like standards. Will sing like a verse, and then he does like a little rap verse that he's written himself, like in between. It's just hip hop and jazz.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of, there's a bit of history there, but
sure.
Same kind of idea. Like anything could be anything.
Yes, and you have to decide on what that's going to be before you start. Because it can't, if you want to try and get away from the I'm an acoustic singer-songwriter, like every other person ever, you need to decide what you're going to be. It's like Ed Sheeran did that.
Yeah.
I mean, he started out as, that acoustic singer-songwriter, and then he starts kind of branching out to kind of, earlier on, it was kind of like electric guitar. He would bring in some drums, and it would be kind of not really anything, and then it became kind of hip-hop. And then dance kind of stuff. Because
his singing style is really fast. So he has lots of words per and his melodies are more sort of like not monotone, but maybe like bitonal, like going between one or two notes, kind of a thing. So there's that sort of he started introducing that sort of rap thing.
Yeah. Love it or hate it.
Yeah.
But you need to decide this stuff before. How do you want it to sound? Do you want big heavy guitars, or do you just want a wee Strat on the cleanest setting you can get? Playing some twiddly bits in the background. Do you want electric piano?
Do you want slide guitar?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Do you want the fattest, dirtiest synths? You need to think about all of this.
Yeah. And
I'm all for it. I think there should be fat, dirty synths on everything.
If you require pre-production on stuff, I would recommend if you're stuck and you don't know the direction of the song, if you're not that way inclined, if you can't figure out how to voice this song, speak to the studio that you're going to record in and say, I want to come and record here, but I need help with pre-production. I want help with arranging. I want help with where you see this song going. And a lot of studios do that. They do pre-production. They do basically making the demo, and then they do the final recording, the mixing, the mastering. I've done pre-production in the past a little bit. I've not done it in a long time, just because of the amount of work that's involved, and you have to donate a lot of time to one person, and it's quite a big commitment. I prefer when a band's figured out. It's usually bands I do anyway. Solo artists is kind of less so, but I prefer if all that's figured out, and then they come in and they know what they're going to do, and I just take the demo that they've made with pre-production done. But some studios will do pre-production with you. So it's worth speaking to the studio and go, hey, I'm in pre-production, can you help me with it? If you're struggling with it. If you're the type of person who's like, Jacob Collier, and he's just pre-production all the time.
He just does it all in his in his wee tiny
He doesn't
office.
even do it's like the songwriting and pre-production is all just in one process. It's just done. It's just mental.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what we all aspire to
if you
be.
work like that, for sure.
It's mental. If you haven't checked out Jacob Collier's stuff, I recommend. He's just
especially his earlier videos are insane, because he recorded everything using an iPad, like the videos and stuff, just with an iPad, and all the instruments with an SM58.
Yep,
that's it.
Yeah.
And it sounds great. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Serious talent.
So it just goes to show.
Yeah. So all that being said, this is all the stuff you should do, and we'll get on to the next part, the reasons why you do these things and what will happen if you don't do it. So this is getting into the sort of like, oh yeah, why should I do all this stuff? Why does it matter? Here we go.
Yeah.
Roll up your sleeves, boys.
Because a lot of it just sounds like busy work, but it's really not.
It's really not, no. Okay, number one. If you don't do the steps above, so if you don't make demos and send the music off and the demos off to the musicians will not know what you want from them. So they will end up playing random rubbish for 3 hours until you say stop, and then you make the engineer edit all the crap out. This
sounds very specific. Has that happened to you?
No, never. Basically,
a perfect job.
The musician's job, and the musician is being incentivized by money to play for you. And if they don't know what they're doing, they're going to start panicking, and they're just going to start playing random garbage, just whatever comes into their head, because they don't know where to land on. They don't know where the line is, so they're just throwing out stuff until something sticks. So you end up spending 3-4 hours just playing these random riffs and random stuff.
Yeah.
Until you just kind of go, yeah, that, roughly. And they feel bad. Yeah. You feel bad because you feel like you're not getting anywhere. You feel like, oh, that take was kind of rubbish. I don't think he knows what he's doing. It's not his job to know what he's doing. It's your job to know what you're doing so that you can tell him what's happening. So you end up getting just random garbage. And then they leave, oh, thanks very much. And then, can you fix this? It's just 25 takes of just bleh. Can you find all the best bits of the bleh and knit them together? No. No, that's not how you make music. And this happens, just believe me.
Yeah. It's as a musician, thankfully it's not happened to me very often, but on the times that it does, it is kind of like, it's kind of scary because you're kind of put under pressure. Yeah. And you're like, you
feel bad because you're being paid for it, and you're like, oh, I don't want to disappoint. I don't want to do a bad job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you feel, it's just not a nice time, and there have been a couple of times where you walk out and you're like, oh, that was bad. Like, what are they gonna say?
Yep.
Because a lot of things are on the line. Big thing being your reputation. Yeah. It's the biggest thing on the line.
Thing as well, if you don't specify beforehand what kind of style you're going for, say you want a kind of, you've not said you want a kind of Eric Clapton sounding guitar, lead guitar type thing, and then this guy comes in and he's got an Ibanez with a Marshall amp, and he's playing
or like
gent riffs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or like the 7-string, or just a guitar that Eric Clapton just wouldn't play. Yeah, I don't know, a PRS or a Telecaster or something. Thinking Eric Clapton, it's all Strats and
Vox, isn't it?
And Les Pauls, yeah.
I don't know what.
Or maybe he comes in with some kind of like weird jangly, like vintage guitar, which might sound good on some things, but yeah, you get the idea. It's not
if you want something, a Strat sound with some slide playing some sort of country stuff, and the guy comes in and he's playing blues licks, you're like no, I don't really want that. But the guy doesn't know what you want, because maybe you've hired the wrong guy. Maybe you've hired like the best blues guitar player in town, and you want him to play on a country record, and he's like, well, I don't do this.
By the way, I apologize if it sounds like I don't know, there's like fracking going on underneath my house. It's my washing machine.
As I figured,
it's just like
I'm gonna utilize my gate as much as I can.
The gate.
Yeah. It's fine.
Sorry.
I have to gate out all the meows occasionally as well. It's great.
No, keep them in, man. Meows are cute. It's what people come for. They don't come for the music advice. They just come to hear the cats. Meow. Internet loves cats. You know that.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, it's not just the communicating your ideas to the musician. It's also picking the right musician, because if you want them to play a certain style and you get in a guy that doesn't play that style, then you're wasting your time.
yeah,
I've seen that
that's
many
the
times.
other thing as well. Yeah, because people will just sort of like go, oh, we need a guitarist, and like, who do I know? Oh, I know this guy I went to college with, but then you've totally forgotten that all he plays is like progressive metal. So you're kind of, and you're asking him to play some like, you know, nice country guitar licks or whatever.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
no. So that's the reason why you should have the demos.
The demos, all the
already.
pre-production. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So this kind of ties in. So the musicians that you hire might get frustrated, as we said, if you're not prepared, and they don't know what you want, and this will probably hurt your reputation in the long run, because they will tell their friends.
Oh yeah. They're gonna go, man.
Don't worry
I
about that
had
person.
this like totally whack recording session. Like, oh, who was it with? Sometimes if you're like a nice if you're a good boy, you might go, oh, you know, I don't want to say names or whatever. But when some musicians get really frustrated, they'll just go, it was such and such, like full name, tell them all about it. You know, like, don't work with this person. They're awful. They're terrible.
Yeah.
You know, they're crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
Promoters do it in Glasgow. I'm sure of that. Like, they'll blacklist certain bands. Like, if you're not nice and you don't clean up and you don't help out, or you're just you turn up late and all that, promoters will tell all the other promoters, and your name just gets blacklisted, and trying to get a gig becomes more difficult. I've heard of that happening. It's kind of the same thing. You want to assume that you're going to be working with these people again, so you want to make it nice for everybody. Just be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Honestly, like, we're not asking you, when we're talking about charting stuff out, we're not asking you to like write a score. Literally just a piece of A4, Sharpie or whatever. Just write a nice simple chord chart. That's it. You know.
Yep.
Here's the verse. This is the chorus. This is how many times they're being played. There you go.
Yeah. Plan it out.
You know. Plan it out.
So, going back to one of the first points I made, why you should record your song in a DAW with a click track and all that. If you do not, this happens, and believe me, this happens. You come into the studio, say you've not done any prep at all, you just went, oh, I'm a songwriter, here's a phone recording, right, okay. And you come in, right, you sit down, you're ready to record, and you record your acoustic and your vocals as the first bass line, and then you add to that. So the engineer will say, what's the tempo of your song? What tempo is this? What's that? What's a tempo? BPM. You know, oh yeah, oh, it's about this. And then they'll play a bit of the song, and the engineer will go, all right, okay, I've got a tempo, right, well, right, play to this click. And then after they try for half an hour because they can't play to a click, they'll play to the click, and they'll record their first guide. And then it's played to a click. And then what happens?
It's too slow.
It's too slow.
Oh, it's too fast.
Right, so you'll start getting your musicians in, and then you'll record all their stuff on top. And then you'll go, oh, this is too fast. I've recorded this too fast. Is there any way that we can slow the tempo down? No, you can't do that. Technology's good, but it's not that good.
If you don't know what tempo to go for, right, there's a reason why we have, I have an old styly metronome here. Look at that. Anyway, for those of you who are watching the video, there's a reason why there's like set tempos on this thing, such as like 100, 108, 112, 116. It's because they work. They're just good tempos to go for.
Yeah.
So if you're stuck for a tempo, don't stress out about like tapping tempo or whatever. Get a metronome, go for like, I don't know, let's try 120. Okay, maybe that's a bit too fast. Let's go for like 112. You know, bring it down a little bit. That's maybe too slow. Like that kind of thing. You don't want to be going in and be like, yeah, the
0.5.
tempo for the song is actually, 123.56.
I have had that. I have literally had that.
And it's like, no, that tempo is no. There's a reason why old-timey style metronomes are so popular and have been the way they are for centuries, because the tempos are on there have worked for hundreds of years. And they're just almost like they're just instantly recognizable. It's gotten to the point almost where I'm like, I can listen to songs, I can say that must be roughly around 180 or 160 kind of a thing. Because they're tempos that work. They're tempos that are
mainstream tempos.
Mainstream recognizable. Well, like there's nothing wrong with that. With like mainstream tempos. They're just natural.
Is it like all dance music from the 90s was all set to the same tempo? It was like 130 something, and it's so that when DJs are like, that crossfading thing they do.
Crossfading,
it's all
and
the same
moving
tempo
from one song to another. It all works. But try it. If you're stuck for a tempo, you can try and push. Tap the tempo and see what you get. But actually, you will find, and I've certainly found, that when I do tap tempo, I always get a tempo marking that is very commonly used. It'll be like 132 or 140 or 160 something or 90. Like bog standard, really common tempos. So go from there.
And there's another element to it. If you're sitting in the studio and you're trying to figure out the tempo to your song and you're playing away and it's 85, say, a wee bit faster, put it up to 88. Okay, 88. Oh, that's too fast. A wee bit slower. 87. Oh, wee bit slower. 86.5. Oh no, faster. 86.52. And it's just like, just pick one. It doesn't matter. The reason why you should do this in advance is because once you get your demo recorded to a click track and you decide what the tempo is at home, you then learn the demo. You're working on the demo, and it gets imprinted in your brain. That's the tempo of the song. And you can just go to your DAW on Logic or GarageBand and go, oh, it's 108. And go to the studio, it's 108 all the way through. Done. That's it.
Another thing I was going to say, if you're really stuck and you're like, I don't know, this is too slow, this is too fast, you're better off going for the faster one.
Right.
It's just my personal, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but in my experience, I've always found that going for the faster tempo 9 times out of 10 is always the better option.
Right.
If you're really obsessing over that, just because it will always feel better. If you're stuck between 70 and 75, go for 75. Because it will just feel better. It'll just have more energy. Even for ballads and things like that. Like a really slow song, go for the faster tempo.
There's another sort of thing I've just thought of. Solo artists who never play with bands tend to change their tempos in the middle of songs all the time, and it's not a creative thing. It's usually a bad habit, don't know how to play to a regular beat kind of thing.
Sorry.
So if you do that, if you find you can't play to a click because you feel like you need to speed up in the chorus and slow down in the verse, stop doing that, because when you play with a band, you don't do that. So you need to learn how to play the one tempo all the way through, unless you are doing a deliberate, like that Franz Ferdinand song that starts fast and then goes slow for the second half of the song. That's a creative choice. Because
it starts off like and
it slows down. That's a creative thing. It's not like like most solo artists do this when they play live. They play the verse slow and then they play the chorus fast. Stop doing that. It's just
or in like Suspicious Minds, for example. Like there's another good example, but like that's a very deliberate like this is a
it's a push. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it's not just
we're gonna
sloppy.
go into a slow 6/8 here. Exactly. It's not Elvis being sloppy.
No. His band were phenomenal.
Yeah.
So be aware when you go to the studio, your engineer will probably try and slap that out of you, because you want everyone to be synced up to the same tempo, because trying to sync musicians up to a demo that you've laid down with no click, so it's just all over the place.
Whoa.
Trying to sync up drums and bass and keyboard and all that, and they're not all recording at the same time, to just an acoustic guitar and vocal that's not got a tempo. Oh, it's just hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of just rubbish. So do a demo. Next part, once because you'll just waste loads of time and money, especially your own money. So next part, I've written here, you'll spend a huge amount of time tweaking and editing your songs, expecting each little change to magically transform your entire song into the exact sound you were expecting. So because you haven't got the demo done, you're now building a song upon something that you don't have any vision of in your head. So you might think you've got a vision in your head, but you really don't. This is why you have to plan things. If you're under pressure in the studio and you've got random musicians in you've never heard before, and they're just adding stuff on top of your thing, it just sounds alien. So when they all go, you're left with this turd on the screen, right? You have to try and polish this turd. So you're like, I'll take this line out, I'll take that. Oh yeah, I like that. I like what he did there. I'll keep that in. And then you start shaping and molding and editing, and all you're doing is just polishing that turd, giving it a good old wax polish. And you're not actually doing anything. You're not improving anything. You're just sort of kind of caressing.
Think of it.
Ugh.
Like let's put it like I love using analogies that use like let's say you are a sculptor, right? And you're working with some clay. That basically what you just described there is the equivalent of just going, I am going to make this person's face from memory. I'm just gonna make a face. Okay, cool. What face? I don't know. Let's just find out. And then you just like slap clay all over the place, and then you just end up with some like horrible alien looking monstrosity, And then maybe you tweak the nose or whatever. What most people do is they go, I want to create, even if it's somebody that you've never seen before. Like let's say, I don't know, some like ancient person from a really long time ago, like some like Roman general or whatever, and then maybe there isn't like a bust of him made. They'll look up, you could even look up some historical sources or whatever. They'll have a reference.
Yes.
And they'll make notes. They might even do a sketch beforehand, because sculptors also, are artists, so they will draw.
Yeah.
And then they work off of that. Your demo is basically the equivalent of that sketch before you go in and you start putting clay and stuff.
Yeah.
They might even make an what's it called? An armature, which is basically like almost like an exoskeleton. Not an exoskeleton, but like a skeleton of the of the thing that they're going to make. With a rough shape of the head. Where things are going to go, and then they add on that. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't just make a genetic human head and then just edit it until it looks like the person. For the best.
Yeah, this looks about right.
So you'll end up tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and editing and editing and editing and wasting studio time for months, and then you're expecting that, like, turning the guitar up half a decibel is not going to be the difference between like never existing, no one knows who you are, and number one hit. It's just not.
Yeah.
If you're at that level of trying to just tweak, it's maybe not where you should have started in the first place. It's actually have your demo.
To be fair to a lot of these people, I mean, I sometimes they don't know. They don't know they're doing it. And it can be quite, I don't know. I guess it's because I've never really done a solo thing, and I've mostly played with bands. But with bands, you're kind of just you're writing the thing, and you try to not be super precious about the things that you're making. But with solo artists, it can maybe be the case that you're sort of you've worked really hard on this yourself, by yourself. It's your thing. You want it to be as perfect as possible. I get that, but you kind of need to sort of drop that attitude.
Yeah.
Because it won't actually. It won't help.
Yeah.
It will hinder you 100%.
And once you've done all your editing and tweaking and trying to get this, unrecognizable turd to look somewhat like a version of the song that you wanted, you'll end up with a finished product that doesn't look anything like what you were expecting. It doesn't sound like the sound you had in your head when you started the project, because you didn't have a sound in your head when you started the project. You just had vague ideas because you didn't get those ideas down before coming to the studio. So you end up with this really expensive, really nice shiny turd, and and you just, that's it. And what it is, it's a demo. It just ends up being a demo.
It just ends
and then
up being
what you do, you go and book another studio, and you take that demo and use that as your template, and you end up with just perpetual turds forevermore, because you should have done it right in the first instance.
By yourself.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? There was a thought that came to me. It'll come back. It was quite a good one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was like, no, don't be silly.
Talking about perpetual turds.
It was that idea of like infinite turds. I was like, oh no, it will come to me. It was a good point. But yeah, carry on.
I was pretty much finished my point with the turds. Just a conveyor belt of turd.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose. You're
struggling to remember.
Really good as I'm honestly, when it's like you're thinking really hard about it, and it's just like your brain is giving you
blanks.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Let me jog my memory.
What we're talking about.
Let's just sort of what's the word? Just summarize. Yeah. What we've kind of said.
We always talk about bands. We always talk about rehearsal and all this. This is basically a kind of rehearsing. So what rehearsal sessions or arranging sessions when you're with your band, when the guitarist brings in an idea, you jam it out with the band. It's jams, right? And that's how you make your demo. That's why bands making demos for bands is less important. It's still important, but it's less important because you've been playing it live. You have your song rehearsed. You can go into the studio and just play it. And like maybe there's 10% of the song is going to be changed by the engineer and go, oh, what about this, what about that? And it's usually fine. But with solo artists, you haven't done that with a band. You're totally making it from scratch, and you cannot go to a studio and expect to just it materialize in front of you. You have to do the legwork beforehand.
Yeah. I suppose a lot of that is that people have these. I remember what it is.
Yeah,
I remember what it is. It's about a couple of expectations, right?
Okay.
So expectation number one is that when you're, I'm gonna have to start getting into the habit of having a notebook and just writing things down, so this doesn't happen ever again. As entertaining as it might be to maybe listen to, I don't know, but. Yeah, so expectations. When you're a songwriter, sometimes there's this kind of expectation that you need to just sort of go in and just be able to just work on it in the studio, and you know exactly what's going to happen. You need to work on that beforehand. But the other expectation is that a lot of people think that you have to look for things to change. So if you know what I mean, so a lot of people are kind of stuck in this loop of engineer will do something, right? And then the engineer, and maybe it's like the first thing that they've done, right? And to you, oh yeah, that sounds pretty great, right? And the engineer is like, how's this? and then they'll go, could we change this? And it's like, no, you were happy with it. If you're happy with the very first thing that came out, just say so, you know?
Yeah.
Because sometimes that just happens. You know, you don't have to be contrarian all the time. You know, you can just, if you're happy with what they've done, just, and you're like, yeah, that sounds pretty good, just roll with it.
Yeah.
Maybe if you change your mind later, you know, that's fine. We can maybe change a couple of things, whatever. But
sabotage, it just becomes sabotage after that when you go too far.
For sure, yeah. I've certainly, for a while, I used to feel a bit like, I don't know, maybe I should, you know, say something, you know, and maybe I should try something different. But like, honestly, if you've walked in, you played the thing, engineer does the thing, and you're happy with it, just go, great, cool, awesome. We'll just roll with it then.
Yeah, totally.
It speeds up the. I mean, it's not going to happen all the time. If you genuinely feel like, no, there needs to be a change, then suggest what needs to be changed or whatever. But if you're happy with it, don't feel like you need to come up with something to change.
Yeah. So
if that makes sense.
Same goes for the mixing process. So this kind of ties in as well. Once the solo artist is done with all their recording and the song's done, the engineer will now send you a mix of the mixed product. And then that's when the fun begins, because you'll be like, no, change this, change this, change this, change this, blah, 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 blah. And 99 times out of 100, the song was fine on mix one. The amount of times, occasionally, like just speaking from experience from an engineer's point of view, I would say about 80%, maybe 75%, 80% of the mixes I send out only get one change. So maybe it's like, oh, I'm kind of struggling to hear the solo guitar. Can you turn it up a bit? And then I'll listen back and I'll go, you know what, they're right. It's kind of not punching. Or the vocal, the backing vocal in the chorus, just turn that up a little bit. It's kind of not blending in well with the main vocal. And then I'll listen back and go, yeah, they're right. And then you get those ones that are like, can you turn the high-end EQ on the hi-hat down a little bit? It's just blah, blah, blah. And then you listen, you go, really? And then you do the change and it's like barely any different and you send it over and they're like, oh, yes, perfect now. I'm like, okay, fine.
Have you ever, so, I mean, I'm expecting the answer to be no because you're a respectable man. But has anybody ever like given you a bunch of changes, you looked at them and gone, and then you've just sent them basically the same mix, but just a different number. Oh yeah, this is the second mix, and then you've gone, oh yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you, it's perfect.
No, I haven't done it, but I once accidentally sent them the same mix. I did the changes, but I sent them the old mix by accident. And they were like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And I was like, oh shit, I sent them the wrong one. And I was like, okay, I better admit to this because this is bad. And then I sent them the actual change, and I can't remember what happened after that. But yes, I have done it, but it was a mistake. It was really,
because it just reminds me of like, oh, that's funny. I used to do that in in orchestras when I was, you know. Sometimes you can tell when you have a good conductor or not. Is sometimes conductors will find that it's the exact same thing. It's almost like, you know, conductors and solo singer-songwriters are kind of like the same people. Yeah. But they will find like, you know, I'm a flute player, so we'll use that as an example. Oh, the flutes are too loud. Flutes could, and then they'll single it out and it's like, flutes, could you play it? And then you play it really, really quietly. You know, and then it'll go, yes, just like that. And then you play it with a full orchestra like you played it before. And they're like, yes, brilliant, fantastic, sounds great.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you know.
Yeah.
Then you know you're working with a conductor that doesn't know what they're doing.
I've had that as well.
Or sometimes they're just mistaken. Sometimes they were just finding a thing because they felt like, oh, it's on the contract. I need to find things that the musicians are doing wrong. Sometimes they're not doing anything wrong. It's just sound fine.
It's a breath of fresh air when you get someone who really knows. Like, I can think of one example. I was playing. It was a big, heavy band, like 70 musicians, and I was up the back, just playing some rudiment type stuff on a snare drum. It was like a lead snare drum part or whatever, and I was just playing away, and then he stops and he's like, "Snare drum, your flams are too loose." And I was like, "All right." So I'm looking at my part, and like occasionally I'm playing like some flams. The flam is when you go, but so my flams were too, but they were too spaced out, and he wanted them to be more, like really together.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even playing that loud. It was kind of like medium volume, and everyone else was quite loud, and it was just kind of in the background. And I played the difference, and I did change it, and he picked it out. Like out of like 70 musicians, and he was like, that is like, I mean, there's timpani going, there's other percussion going, but like there's tambourines and all this stuff going on, and he picked it out and was like, that needs to change. They're too loose. I was like, wow.
That's
serious.
That's when you know you're working with somebody with a good ear.
Oh yeah,
you know,
serious. So I think that's pretty much everything for this topic, to be honest. We may do an episode on how to spot. In fact, that may be a good one for next week, actually. How to spot what would potentially be wrong with a mix when you get it back from a studio. Things to listen for and look out for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that would be a good one.
How to monitor and like listen on like car stereos and headphones, and like trying to figure out what in the mix should be, problem territory. What to look out for. Instead of just going, I don't know, sounds all right. Drums louder? I don't know. Because you actually need to practice on how to know what sounds good. It's not just a case of, oh yeah, that's good, I think. Maybe? I don't know. So we'll maybe talk about that next week.
Yeah,
why not?
It's a good idea.
Cool. Well, if there's nothing else to add to this, we'll just wrap up there.
No?
Cool. So, as of a few days ago, maybe last week, I don't know, we have added 2 music theory sheets to the website. We have rhythm theory, so if you have heard of time signatures and don't really know much about them, we recommend listening to the 2 music theory episodes, maybe 5 episodes back. Have a listen to them, and there's a worksheet on rhythm theory, so it just goes through like what is a time signature. You've probably heard 4/4. I kind of know 4/4. I don't really know what it is. Haven't really spent the time in figuring out what it is. There's a sheet telling you what it is that I've put up. You can go to www.levelupyourband.com and you can sign in for free and download the PDFs. There's also a PDF on our recommended affordable music gear, which is really handy. If you're like, I don't know what mic to buy or what jack cable to get or amp to get, we have Level Up Your Band recommended gear. So you can go and check that out. And you also did a music theory sheet on...
Yeah. Just the bare minimum on how to read music. So it gives you a really quick sort of crash course on how to read treble clef, how to read bass clef, and just a basic sort of like, like this is how this is how the rhythms are written on the stave, that kind of a thing. So it's just a very basic, like if you've never read music before, you should be able to read this and go, right, I know where these notes are now, and I know how this works. So after you've read the rhythm one, you should be able to apply that to the music one. I think I'm going to do another one explaining, because there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, just going into like key signatures,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that kind of a thing.
Yeah,
you know, because that's kind of important.
Chords. We should do one in modes as well. Like we should go right into it. Just keep pumping these out, like, because they're really handy to have. Even for me, if I'm like trying to reference stuff, I can just go, oh, listen to this or watch this sheet or whatever. I mean, the two ones that we've got up just now, they're only 2 A4 sheets long. They're not a blooming book or a
and they're kind of designed to just be like, pick it up
as a reference,
read it, and go, right, okay.
Take it to rehearsal. You
Yeah.
can even take it to rehearsal. Go and print it off and, like, you know, as a guide or whatever. If you're that way inclined, whatever, do what you want. Don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever helps you. If you are enjoying the podcast, please give us a review, a like, a share, a subscribe, and all that, wherever you happen to listen to it, and tell your pals. And I recommend as well, if you have started this podcast kind of midway through, I recommend going back to episode 1 and listening through, because there's a lot of valuable information we've shared over the year.
Yep.
It'll be coming up on a year since we've been doing this. I think it's January we started.
That's crazy.
We started recording actually about a year ago now. I need to look it up because I've got it written in my diary.
Wow.
It's like December. It's like November, December that we started recording. So we've been doing this for a year now. Would you believe it? Through the worst year ever in anyone's living memory.
We still managed.
Oh yeah.
We don't know how we did it, but we still managed to pump out content.
I know.
You know,
So yeah,
I'm looking forward to news. Little birdie told me that there's a vaccine that could be coming out pretty pronto.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So hopefully we can get back into the studio.
Yeah,
which would be quite nice.
Yeah,
you know, actually talk to each other without this latency rubbish.
Yeah.
Don't know how we're gonna film it. Well, we could maybe figure it out.
Yeah, we can set up some cameras. Anyway, yeah, feel free to go back and listen to old episodes if you're looking for stuff to listen to. Highly recommended. It's very good, so I've been told. So anyway, we'll leave it there on that really horrible note. Hope you all have a good week, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Right, bye.